The Starfleet life with the USS Dauntless. Are you dedicated enough to be a Starfleet officer? Do you have what it takes? Greetings, everybody. I am Admiral Swart, Commanding Officer of the USS Dauntless, and this is the briefing with the Admiral for Stardate negative 268812.1. Today we're going to be talking about technology that we can use in order to navigate through time. If only there was a way to do that, to sense what the future might look like, what the past has looked like, what tomorrow or next week or next month or next year is going to look like, and how we can make sure that those futures turn out the way that we want them to do. And there is one simple technology that we can use in order to make that happen. And that is a calendar. We can use a calendar for that. So what is a calendar? So the word calendar has a couple of different meanings. The first one is that it is a way that we can use to measure the progress of time. Now, day to day, we use a couple of different calendars. On the Dauntless here, we use 3 distinct calendars. Let me show you what I mean by 3 different calendars. All right, so the first one that we use is the Gregorian calendar. So it was named after Pope Gregory the 13th, who commissioned its invention. It was introduced in the year 1582, and the Gregorian calendar measures 2 things. It has 2 basic units. It has a year, a solar year, which is the amount of time that the Earth takes to travel 1 full revolution around the sun. And the other unit it measures is days. So it compares those 2 units, how many days are in 1 year, which is 365.25. And there are various complexities, like we have to add a leap year every 4 years. We add an extra day into the calendar at the end of February. Sometimes we have to add in a leap second or subtract a leap second just to make sure that those units more or less tally up, because they're not exactly the same, but there are slight variances in the length of an orbit, a solar orbit, so that is going to cause some complication there. But generally speaking, it's fairly reliable, and we are accustomed to operating our lives using the Gregorian calendar. Of course, 365 days is divided up into 12 months, each of which has a different number of days, and we're accustomed to working with it in that way. The other calendar that we use day to day is simply called a week. We don't think of it as being a calendar in and of itself, but it is one. It also uses the unit of a day. That's the only unit that the Gregorian calendar and the week calendar have in common. That is the day, which is a solar day, which is the amount of time that the Earth takes to rotate once on its axis. So the sun returns to the same point in the sky when it was the day before. That's roughly 24 hours. So the week calendar is only 7 days long. It is a circular calendar, which means it goes through all 7 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then starts again from the beginning. Whereas the Gregorian calendar is both circular and incremental. So it goes through the full 12-month cycle, 365 days, and then it increments up 1 year. So those 2 systems, we're kind of so used to using them both because they both use the same basic unit of a day, that we kind of think of them as being one and the same. We don't think of them as being separate calendar systems, but they are. They're distinct. They don't really work together very well. You can't fit an X number of weeks, 52 weeks, into a year perfectly. You've always got a couple of days left over. And you can't fit a perfect number of weeks into a month, except for the month of February when it's not a leap year. It's kind of not a good fit. But we're accustomed to operating this way, so we're just do it all the time. We don't really think about it. Here on the Dauntless, we use a 3rd calendar system, which is one that we've inherited from Star Trek, and that is the Stardate calendar. So Stardates are surprisingly complicated. You'll have noticed, if you've watched Star Trek, any amount of it, you'll have noticed that often at the beginning of an episode, there is a voiceover from the captain in which he will say it is Stardate such and such, captain's log, Stardate, la la la, and then he'll explain what's happening in that episode, right? So that number, where does that number come from? Now that is a very complicated question. And if you're paying attention, you'll also notice that the Stardate system, the structure, doesn't seem to maintain its integrity from one point in the Star Trek timeline to another. So the system in use during the original series doesn't appear to agree with the system used in the Next Generation or the system used in the later seasons of Discovery, so which suggests that the Stardate system has changed over time, and now we have to try and figure out how all of those things work. Now, fortunately, somebody has done that work for us. Andrew Main from the University of Manitoba published this article that I'm looking at here way back in 1997, in which he has laid out his case for how to calculate a star date using maths, basically. Effectively, no, it's a long explanation. It's in 6 parts. You're welcome to read through it if you like. It's actually pretty good reading. But the TLDR of it is that a single star date is 1/5 of a solar day. So one day equals 5 star dates, and we're simply just counting star dates. But then it also comes into 2 bands. So this number here, this 4-digit number followed by a decimal, that is the number of star dates. But then is also this bracketed number here, and that increments each time this number gets to maximum. So this counts all the way up to 9,999.99. And when it ticks over to 0000 again, then this increments down. So -31 to -30, -29, and so on. So this article was written in 1997, which was stardate -318857.62, compared to today, which is -268812.2. So you'll see how that system works, and it increments negatively all the way up to the 23rd century, at which point we are no longer in the negative numbers, and that is the time period that we see in the original series. So you don't have to calculate this yourself. There are calculation tools available. You can hit and it'll spit out the star date in a number of different formats. This is not the only format available, by the way. Andrew Main's system is not the only one. Lots of people disagree about how to calculate star dates, and so there are multiple different standards for what star dates should look like. But the main one is here. This is the one that we use on the Dauntless for a variety of reasons, and you can work it out from there. You can also enter in the star date that you're given and hit the calculate button, and it'll go find the Gregorian calendar date equivalent. This is also a bit of a hassle. You don't want to have to be converting manually every time. So there are other tools available. In fact, my preferred tool, the one that I recommend, just lives on my pad, and it looks like this. Let me find that for you. There it is. So on my device, I have this app. It's simply called Stardate. You can get the premium version, which gets rid of the ads at the bottom, but it gives you the current date and time in at least 5 different star date standards, which is pretty cool. So this one at the top is what's simply called TOS. That is the main standard. So that's the one that we use, and that's pretty nifty. Now, here on the Dauntless, we do use this date system, but we kind of only use it ceremonially. You'll notice that I introduce myself at the beginning of all of my videos using the current star date. Our Chief Communications Officer does the same thing with the Crow's Nest videos, and this is the date system that we'll use on things like certificates, but it's a little bit difficult to convert from one to the other in your head all the time, and our calendars are typically not marked in this date. So when we're organizing things on the Dauntless, we use the Gregorian calendar for that purpose, or at least the combination of the Gregorian calendar and the week calendar. So that's not the tool that we use for that thing, even though it is available for us. So now when it comes to the Dauntless specifically, and we're thinking about a Dauntless calendar, where do we go for that? Well, that's quite easy. We go to the Dauntless website. If you look on the menu and you find the schedule, you will come to this page, which looks like this. Now, there are a lot of colored blocks, which is pretty interesting. And if you're familiar at all with the calendar, then you'll know what that looks like. But why would you not be familiar with the calendar? Well, I know that young people today seem to have a difficult relationship with calendars as a tool. And I hear what you're saying. I can read your thoughts. I know that you're saying, okay, boomer, calendars are cringe. And to which I respond, stop the cap. Calendars slap. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Yeah. Okay, all right. It's fine. I'm not gonna do any more boomer stuff anymore. All right, we're just gonna be talking about calendars and why they're so important. And this is the Dauntless calendar, and it's got lots of different color codes here. And what does that mean? So this gives you a list of all of the things that are happening. Well, this is the month view. You can see the month view of all the things that are happening. So here on the Dauntless, we've got this mission here. If we click through there, it gives you a description of what we're doing here and now on the Dauntless. And we can also take a look at tomorrow. We've got another mission there. We've got our Star Trek Online mission, which is for all hands. This weekend, we've got a couple of different missions, so many that don't even fit on one tile. We have to open it up. But it also has a couple of other conspicuous items here on the list. So firstly, it has what looks like a Star Trek episode. What is that? Well, that is our daily devotionals. So here on the Dauntless, it's a personal project that I administer. I like to rewatch an episode of Star Trek every single day in chronological order from the beginning of canon all the way through to the end. And I publish, for the edification of the rest of the crew, the episode that I'm going to be watching that day, so that everybody else can watch along with me if they want to. It's not mandatory or policed or anything like that. It's just a fun thing that I like to share with the crew. And that is this calendar here, which lists today's episode, which is Voyager Season 5, Episode 9, 30 days. Tomorrow's episode is actually one of the movies. It's Star Trek Insurrection. The next day is an episode of Deep Space Nine, and so on. Then we have this blue button here, Batarail Hali. Batarail is a holiday celebrated on the planet of Hali. During Batarail, it is customary for one member of the family to sing the Horath, and there's a link through to the Memory Alpha page about Batarail. So all of the actual holidays within the Star Trek universe that we're aware of have been put into this calendar, and they're available here if you're interested in celebrating or observing those holidays. Then we also have the star date. So you'll notice this format looks kind of familiar, but it's not entirely accurate. This is provided by Google themselves. Google are pretty cool about that kind of thing. They've inserted a star date calendar into the Google Calendar tool. It's a little imprecise because, as I mentioned, a single calendar day, it's a Gregorian calendar day, equals 5 star dates, and we only get one of these per day. So this was the star date as it was at 0000 hours this morning at the beginning of today. So by now this has incremented a couple of times, so this is no longer the star date. But if you want to use a star date and you're comfortable with it being approximate or imprecise, then this is an adequate one to use. It's probably close enough for most purposes. Although I like to use that tool that I showed you to get more precise, this one is probably fine. We also have here, we have Tim Russ's birthday. Tim Russ, of course, was the actor who played Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager. So we have some interesting dates from that kind of point of view as well. We also have some of these bigger blocks in this here. So we have crew evaluations, for example, which is a crew-wide event and it lasts all day. We also have a multi-vector away mission up here on the 6th of July. So those are all-day events, but events that don't last all day or smaller like that. We can actually switch to the week view and get a better sense of what that looks like. But here, down here in this corner, is a button that says Google Calendar. So what is that? Google Calendar looks like this. Google Calendar is really the tool. Captain Van Krenen says week view does not slap. Well, it doesn't in that interface, but it's all right. If we go to the main Google Calendar interface, then that's a whole other story. So I'm going to be talking today about Google Calendar. Now, Google Calendar isn't the only tool available that does this kind of thing. There are other calendars out there that work fairly well. Microsoft Outlook, even the free version, is pretty good. I've found that it actually works best when combined with a Google Calendar account. You're able to access your Google Calendar from within Microsoft Outlook, and that seems to work quite well. But you can set it up via Outlook to do most of these things anyway, and that's fine. Another popular tool is Apple's iCal, which I've never actually used myself, but from what I hear, it's pretty good and does most of the same things that Google Calendar does. So I recommend Google Calendar because in my experience, it's the most powerful version of this tool. Microsoft Outlook is fine, and iCal is probably fine too. So we're going to be looking at Google Calendar. In all likelihood, you can get most of these features available in those other calendar applications too. So if you go to your Google Calendar, it might look something like this. And this is a place where you can schedule your time. So when you go to the Dauntless Calendar and you click on this plus Google Calendar button, what it does is it will open up your personal Google Calendar and give you the option of importing all of these different Dauntless calendars. There are actually 4 different calendars embedded in this one calendar to your personal calendar and have them exist as overlays. So here we could have the Star Trek Daily Devotionals. There it is in my personal calendar. There it is. We have the Star Trek holidays, which are listed there as well. I can hide them or show them. We've got the star dates down there. They can hide or show those. We also have the Starfleet International Corporate Calendar is embedded in here as well, and the USS Dauntless calendar. But also here are my personal events. And this is where the real power of this tool comes in. So when you are able to look at your schedule for how things are shaping up over the next few days or weeks or months or years, you can see how all of these events fit together in time, and you can then avoid scheduling conflicts and other problems like that. If you're the sort of person who is constantly being receiving feedback from other people that you are always late, or you're double booking yourself, or you're forgetting about appointments that you've made, it means that you have not yet mastered your calendar, or more likely you're not using your calendar at all, because using a calendar is really quite easy. And once you get the hang of it, which doesn't take a lot of work, it becomes relatively practically effortless, frankly, to be able to make sure that you are at all of your events on time, make sure that things are happening when they're supposed to, and that nobody is being disappointed by your lack of participation or attendance, because you never need to forget what is going to be coming in the future. You never need to be confused about what's on your agenda, because it's all right there in plain English and in bright colors. So I have customized my calendar in a way that I have color codes for everything. So here you can see the mission that we're busy with right now. That's the briefing with the Admiral. I can take meeting notes here if I want to, but that's not relevant for this kind of a mission. We have the full breakdown of what's going to be happening during this event, and it is color coded in gold, because that, well, at least in orange. So it has the little orange strip down the side there, which indicates that it is a USS Dauntless event, because orange is the color code that I've assigned to USS Dauntless missions, and the mission itself is listed in the calendar in gold because it falls under the communications department, communications branch of service. Later, I've got a personal event here. We've got blue down the stripe there, and that is called Starfleet Admin. So that's a block that I keep in my calendar every couple of days, where I can spend a bit of time working on my Dauntless administration, catching up on my mission logs, or updating the operations board, things like that. I can do that every day that I need to. I also, earlier today, I was supposed to have gone to the gym, but unfortunately my vehicle didn't get me there. So I'm going to just delete that, because now there was no gym session for me earlier today. So my calendar was actually open. I was working on other projects, but I didn't have any specific appointments at that time. Tomorrow, I'm going to be volunteering at Cheetah Outreach, which is part of my personal schedule. I'm going to be there the entire day, which is why that block is blocked out. And there's a blue stripe down the side of it because it's my own personal event. Then tomorrow evening, we've got another Dauntless event signified by the orange stripe down the side. It's red because it falls under the command department, and it is the Star Trek Online mission, and there is Colonel Hubert, who is the organizer of that mission. It's as easy as that. So then when somebody wants me to do something, they can send me a mission, I say a meeting request, which is then automatically added to my calendar. I can see where it is, so I know that whether or not I'm available. If I'm uncertain, I can go and take a look at the calendar and see what's going on. But I don't only have to go to the calendar on the desktop. There is, of course, a mobile app where I can see what I need to see. Let me show you what that looks like. Here it is. So I, of course, use Android because, you know, I'm just that kind of person. And this is the calendar that looks like. This is what the Google Calendar app looks like on the mobile device. It's nice and clear. You can see the full day. You can also switch your views. You can switch to different days, different months, that kind of thing. Click this to go back to today. And you can also switch to a schedule view, which some people prefer. So you can just see the list of all of the events that are coming up over the next little while. Google Calendar does a nice job of adding cool flair to the events, so you can get a sense of what's really going to be happening. So this is a beautiful tool that allows you to navigate your time, navigate the future, and see what's going to be coming up. Now, when we have a mission scheduled aboard the Dauntless, the Google Calendar is not the only place where it appears. Now, this is the logical place to go because it's the most comprehensive space that happens. When you've completed your mission proposal form and your mission has been approved by the command department, it then gets added to the Dauntless calendar so that it looks like this. But we also have automations set up in such a way that it can present this information and reminders to you in a more convenient space. So because most of our operations take place in Discord, we have automations in place that can allow us to see all of this information in Discord. So I'm going to take you to Discord. So here we have, this is one of our semi-automated accounts that I'm using here. This is not my personal Discord account, in case you're wondering. And here we have the bridge channel. So for all active duty personnel, you will have access to the bridge channel, which is where most of the conversations happen that are relevant to the day-to-day functioning of the Dauntless. We have automation set up that will post a daily summary of the next 7 days worth of events. So that looks like this. It's dropped every morning at 0800 South African Standard Time, and it gives you a list of all of the events that are coming up in the next 7 days. And these are also color-coded appropriately. That pulls those same color codes from the Google Calendar. Gold means operations, red means command, and teal means sciences. This is also automatically dropped into the pinned messages tool up here. So every day when it drops that thing, it automatically pins it. So if you're looking for the daily schedule, you can find it there. Another automation that happens is whenever a mission is about to start, it drops a reminder message here in the bridge channel, which looks kind of like this. It says scheduled mission commencing, gives you the mission list, all of the details that are in the thing. It even gives you a link to the screening room if that's where the mission is taking place. If you click on that link, it will then open your Google Calendar so you can see all the details there in the context of your own personal schedule. This is how well integrated all of these tools are, and that's why Google Calendar is so powerful. What it also does is it automatically adds the events to the events tab. So any missions that are coming up in the Dauntless calendar for the next 7 days are automatically inserted into the Dauntless Discord events feature here. So if you click on events, which is at the top of your left-hand bar, it brings up a cool list of all of the missions that are going to be coming up over the next 7 days. So this is the mission we are in right now, briefing with the Admiral, which is for all hands. Then tomorrow we've got that same Star Trek Online mission. There it is. There's some basic information there. This contains a little less information than the Google Calendar just because there's a character limit. So if you see that this description has been cut off, go check in the Google Calendar for the full description. We try to make sure that it's as brief as possible so that it all fits in here, but that doesn't always work out. We've got unarmed combat training for IOTA team in Bloemfontein. They're going to be taking some time doing that this weekend, along with Tower team, who are going to be doing park run. Also this weekend, we've got a movie night in Beta Sector, and we've got next week's briefing with the Admiral All Hands, which has just by the bot been added to this events list automatically because it is now less than 1 week from today. So I'm going to indicate that I'm interested in attending that because that's going to be very fun. You'll notice that there's no banner here. The banners are added manually by the communications department during the course of the week so that there's a cool, fun banner that makes it obvious to the eye where that's going to be taking place. So those are duplicated automatically and updated manually. There are other places where that might happen. We still have a Facebook group on Facebook, although Facebook is frankly a dying platform. Nobody really uses it anymore, but it's still there. If you as a mission commander feel like you'd like to promote the mission that you have planned on the Facebook group, then we can set up an event. The events feature on Facebook is actually pretty good. It's comprehensive. Only problem is nobody sees it. But if you feel like you'd like to promote it there, we can definitely set up a duplicate. It would look something like this. It would use the same banner image and it would contain all the same information, but it would exist in the Facebook group. We have also in the past used a tool called meetup.com. Meetup.com is a way of promoting your events to the general public. Other people can come and see what's happening. They can sign up to attend. The problem with Meetup is that it's not free. There is a subscription fee charged if you want to post events. We have done that before in the past. It's not out of the question, but we would need to figure out who is going to pay for that kind of thing. I just want to greet everybody that's here in the briefing room with me today. We've got Chief Newton, we've got Captain van Grionen, we've got Master Chief Kotze, we've got Colonel Hubert, and we've got Lieutenant Kalitz. Colonel Hubert is our resident Gen Xer. In fact, I think most of them are Gen X. I think I'm the only correction, no, they're not Gen Xers. I'm the Gen Xer. She is a millennial. I think you're all millennials except me. Yes, apologies about that. I get these generations all mixed up in my head. They're all kind of the same to me, except for Gen X, which is obviously the best one. What is the millennial date again? Who knows? Who knows? If only we had some kind of a tool that we could look back in time and see where that was. Master Chief Kotze says the Goonies generation. Yes, that's true. We are the best generation, Generation Goonies. Right, so that is a rough approximation of what you should be looking at if you are trying to navigate the future. both of your personal life and your Starfleet career. Uh, these things are valuable and interesting, and they matter if you want to be a professional. You want to be well thought of by other people, by making sure that you are on time for the events that you're attending. If you are aware of what's happening, if you want to make sure you're not double booking yourself, it is an essential productivity tool, arguably the most important productivity tool you will ever find. And that is the calendar. So, unless we have any questions or comments about calendars or the Google Calendar or the Dauntless schedule in general, I think we can probably call that one a. I think we can call that one a day. I think that was a nice, easy one. Not a lot to cover today. I decided to try and keep it relatively short, and I managed to succeed. It's under 30 minutes, so that's fantastic. If you have any comments or questions or queries about calendars, or about the Dauntless calendar, or about the Dauntless itself, or anything else that you've seen in this or any of the other videos, you're welcome to drop those questions in the comments section on YouTube or on Facebook. Although nobody's using Facebook, we still post our videos to Facebook just in case, for the last remaining boomers who are still on that platform. You're welcome to drop your comments there. Otherwise, you're welcome to reach out to me in whatever way you feel is appropriate: Discord, Messenger, Telegram, whatever, and we can talk about your issues and maybe even address them on an upcoming briefing video. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That has been a good one, and thankfully a mercifully brief one. We will see you again next week for the next briefing with the Admiral. That's it for today. Swart out.